Hey YouTube. The reason why I'm doing this video is studying crucifixions and exorcisms and all of these different things and stuff like that, and just studying about demonology and all of these different stuff. You become more aware of certain things that are going on. Now, the craziest thing, I started to realize that they would they would actually, like, demonic forces within the Catholic Church would see innocent people and perform an exorcism of God on people of God. How many of you were aware that demons that's within the church start to perform an exorcism of God on holy people? And doing this exorcism, they want to force the person to lie, do inappropriate things, whatever the case may be, and it was called the exorcism of God. A lot of these exorcisms took place back in the days by people that were in charge that was demonic and ungodly. So when we start to look at exorcisms, we have to start asking questions. Why are these exorcisms taking place? Sometimes they're using false names, names that they have encountered or heard of through their studies, in their biblical studies, and they're forced to say that's the spirit that possesses them. So we have to be careful of that. The reason why I'm telling you this and the reason why I'm putting this out here is because as I study exorcism, certain other things take place. And there are records and accounts of these people dying, and the priest becomes demonically possessed by whatever was going on. Like the priest becomes demonic possessed. He cannot control himself and he goes completely mad. And this is all coming from the exorcism of God. Now there's another exorcism of demons that take place, and the whole purpose of this exorcism is supposed to be to remove unclean spirits, ungodly spirits, evil spirits from people who are possessed. These evil spirits entered into the innocent person and are harvesting there. So what am I looking at on both planes? I'm looking at an innocent person tortured and taken through and victimized. One, because he may have a demon, or two, because he may not have a demon. You just want to exorcise God out of him and cause him to have a hatred for the church or the ministry. We have to be very careful some of this stuff that we're following behind, because it is creating psychological demonology. Psychological demonology is more horrible than demonology itself. Because when we talk about the mindset of a person, this is shaped through certain events and traumas that have happened to this person. So this person is forced to lie, forced to pretend that everything is okay, forced to just go along with the program. That's like you Baker acting a completely healthy minded person, and you Baker act them, and you're forcing drugs on them. You are forcing them to say, I'm mentally ill, but I'm okay now. You're forcing certain things on them, and this is not something that isn't known. I can show you testaments in my life of this. And then to say, okay, well, we did what we could, that person is good. We must be very, very careful in exorcism to ensure that there is a motive or a reason for exorcism. There is a motive or a reason for what you call mentally disturbed, or a cause for any form of exorcism, whatever it may be, because in this day and time, I can assure you, and I have testaments from satanic culture that sits up there and clearly states that they are targeting the innocents. I have testaments that I do try to disclose to you guys. Sometimes I don't always get the opportunity to tell you everything because I go through, man, if I was to actually document half of the abuse and half of the stuff that I go through on a daily basis, and I'm still functioning, trying to just go through life as normal, you would probably say, man, this is madness. This is sheer madness, because you could never even tell how much abuse and how much stuff I'm going through unless I divulge this information. It will be hard for you to determine and decipher with the life that I lead. It will be hard for you to determine this is what's taking place. It will be hard for you to say, you know what, this is messed up because of the lifestyle that I lead and the way I live my life. But truth be told, I have to tell you guys right now, innocent people are now a target. And I never knew why, because I know certain people that are now taking on sin that was followers of Christ, and they're taking on sin. And I was like, well, why are y'all doing so simple stuff? And they're like, we ain't got no other choice or we'll be taken. And I'm like, well, what does this mean? It behooves me. Okay, you are people of God, but you're taking on sin. Why would you take on sin? And they saying, look, I'm taking on sin to keep from being held captive, but you're still held captive up under sin. So either way, you whether you do or you don't, you're at a loss. And I guess it's just them saying, look, I can't take the stigma of Christ. I don't know what it is, but they're not willing to suffer for Christ. They're not willing to suffer for the implementation of the word of God, and saying, look, I'm not going to sin. I'm not going to do this. And I guess we are living in apocalyptic times where the devil is running rampant and has all these positions of authority. It's not like the devil has lacked power. It is in a position of authority here on earth, and have been playing this role since Adam and Eve time. And you really need to know that we have dealt with switches, tares, and weeds within the Word of God. And the reason why we dealt with the switches, tares, and weeds, they're not going to give you the battle tactics on how to defeat them. So when we really start talking about exorcism, let's start with just ourselves. How are you exorcising certain things that is not of God out of your life? What are you inviting into your life that has no place there? Let's start with the Ten Commandments, because guess what? They don't want in the Ten Commandments an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Why don't you want that? Because the only way that man understands what not to do, they have to be taken through it themselves. You know it's wrong, but because you're going to condone the behavior, it's time that you go through what you condone yourself. So that's the whole purpose of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. If you can abuse somebody sexually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, then you should be abused sexually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the same duration that that person went through. And if you go through that, then you will know why not to do it. And you will humble yourself and apologize to the people of God. But as long as you are allowed to continue to conduct yourself in the manner and say it's given up under forgiveness, that's not given up under forgiveness, because the word of God clearly states an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Whatever you send into this universe, and this is universal law, which is God's law, whatever you send out into the universe, you will have to pay for it. So if you send good out, even when you read Wiccan says it multiplies itself. So don't think that you're just going to do an eye for an eye. You may take one eye and have to pay with 3 or 7. So you must be careful what you send out into the world, because even when you read these books that are occultic, they even Tell them this as well. Whatever you send out will come back to you times 10, times 5, times 7. So this is the rules and the laws of universe. So if I send healing out, it will come back to me times what? 7. If I send revenge out, it will come back to me times 7. If I send love out, it will come back to me times 7. So if I send forgiveness out, forgiveness will follow me times 7, right? But who am I giving these items to where I do not grow resentment? Because I can't give that which is holy and righteous to people that are not accepting of God or holiness. So now I have to use discernment, because if I send these things out, I can be put in a situation where I regret them, because universally I'm giving it to the wrong host. And giving something that is righteous to the wrong person only leads to destruction, because there are groups that are adversaries to God that will only destroy. So, how do we exercise some of this stuff out of our life? By following the Word of God. But how will I know that the Word of God that I'm following is what it's supposed to be? This is where we consult with God. And this is where we start asking questions. Is it hurting me or helping me? Is it hurting me or helping me? Now, we realize that we do have growing pains in the ministry. And we call it growing pains because, look, there's a certain amount of things that we go through from the adversary trying to discourage us from actually following God's will and purpose for my life. But now comes the question. You're not doing something wrong if you're not covering your neighbor's house and you're covering your own house and making sure your own house is okay, making sure your own house is up under your control, how is that hurting you? Or how is it helping you? Now, you're going to have things within your house that's going to go a little rambunctious, because our kids are constantly in contact with sinful and ungodly people, and they feel like this is the way of life. So we have to exercise certain stuff over our kids and say, look, in this house, this is how the conduct will be. In this house, this is how it will be. Now, I can't stop you when I'm not around you and tell you you're doing wrong, but I'm going to tell you something. If I hear about it, I will address it once it comes back into this house, because these spirits follow, and I will not allow certain behaviors. So this is how we begin to exercise this spiritual thing out of our house, out of our homes, out of certain conducts. We're going to work every day. We're surrounded by sinners and demons and things that are ungodly. Does it have an emotional impact on us? Yes, it does. Is our spirit crying out from the abuse we're sustaining because we're sitting motionless, paralyzed, and just being abused? Yes, and that's demonic possession. And sometimes we end up crying out because of it. And not because of the fact we went to work. Going to work is just a part of life. To provide for yourself, to sustain yourself, to be what you need to be. But you're crying out because you're sustaining abuse, whether you can recognize the abuse or not, whether it's rememberable or not. You may not be able to remember the abuse, but it has taken place and it has sowed seeds in your life that tries to reap a harvest. So how do we correct these seeds and exercise these seeds out of our lives? Through the Word of God. Through the Word of God, because the double trick is sometimes sexual, sometimes theft. I don't steal, so I know if I have been stolen from, the devil's whole plan for stealing from me is for me to sit up there and retaliate with that. But there is a universal law. Because you stole from me, you have to pay times 7, and that's the universal law of that. That's the universal law. You're going to pay way more than you took. So we don't steal. I don't steal because I can't pay the Pied Piper like that. I don't want to pay in judgment. But now the devil and the enemy feels like, okay, well, we ain't even paying in judgment because we're going to just switch judgments. And at some point or sometime, we do go into warfare. It's a mandate. And when we begin to go into warfare, then comes because the word of God says an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I am justified upon the causes according to the word of God to ensure that you pay for the punishments in which you have done to mankind. And you will pay in full. So I say this to people all the time when we're talking about exorcism, when we're talking about so many different things. We have to really be careful because sometimes our lifestyle can invite the wrong things into our home. So exorcism of certain things, okay, I can't watch movies of a certain thing. I don't watch movies with sex. I don't listen to music that talk about they're in love with a dude. I ain't got no love for nobody like that right now. We could be friends. Hey, what's up, bud? And then you go head on. But as far as companionship, relationships and stuff, I don't do that because I was held demonic captive upon some sexual ungodly mess and forced to date guys. So for me, and go through half of the crap that I should not have had to go through. So for me personally, I don't date. Period. Woman, man, whatever, child, whatever you want to call it, I don't do it. So know what y'all dealing with we're dealing with times where people really don't understand that exorcism is happening to innocent people. These people are becoming demonic possessed. It's sad when a demon don't even want you because you that evil. It's sad when a spiritual thing that is considered evil don't want any parts of you. There's something wrong. And you got godly people taking on sin so that they don't become in captive by a spirit, but they still becoming in captive by a spirit and not even recognizing it. It's just, man, I don't even know if I'm divulging it the right way or what, but this is actually happening. Actually happening. And I can't tell it no clearer than this. They using innocent people for both, for demonic possession and for the exorcism of God, where these people don't even have demonic issues, but they just still antagonizing them, abusing them, and taking them through, torturing them, and taking them through the stigmata constantly. And they haven't done nothing wrong. So know what you're dealing with, people. Make sure you make a smart decision. Make sure you know what you're doing, because I'm telling you, these people do not care. All these words encourage you guys. Stay blessed.